Welcome everyone. Today we're going to have a look at OVS, Open Value Subscription Licensing, how to sell it, why people are buying what they're buying, and what motivates people around that purchase cycle. So when you are sitting in front of a customer and you are needing to find out the kind of licensing opportunity that there is with a customer, I think one of the key places to start is to have a look at the infrastructure. Often it is probably more valuable to have the financial director in that discussion. So I want to just touch on the things to set up an off-balance sheet discussion or a licensing discussion that focuses on rental. I'm going to set the scenes to help you position that correctly to the customer and to the right individuals within the customer. The successes we've had in South Africa are mainly focused on the fact that we have engaged directly with the distributors and to help promote the idea of off-balance sheet licensing. Now, off-balance sheet licensing is not something that the IT manager might understand immediately or might want to get involved in, because traditionally the culture in South Africa has been to purchase a license or to purchase something, own it, hang on to it for as long as possible, and then move on. And one of the things that we're looking at, or have been looking at in the last few years, is how do we change that cultural thinking? How do we change that view on how to purchase a license? So a license is an intellectual property. It is not necessarily very tangible, and it's to help you use the hardware that you have so that you can engage with the rest of your organization and be an effective information worker. The big focus here is to get the customer to understand is to pay for the usage of that license and not necessarily buy it. So the analogy I'd like to use is, why purchase the farm if you can just go to a greengrocer and get the groceries and get the use out of the groceries or out of the vegetables, so that you don't have to actually go and buy the farm. And that's the whole focus. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the IT manager doesn't like that approach. They want to own so they can control. We're going to try and show them that they can own and can control. So how do we set that up correctly? Okay, so one of the areas I'd like to look at right now is who should be in that room. And the very first person is someone from finance, someone from IT, not necessary, but someone from HR, not necessary, and someone from the business. Also not that necessary, but finance is an absolute must. 9 out of 10 successes are there if someone from finance is engaging with you up front in that discussion. That's the first port of call. The second port of call is to ensure that they have enough time for you and to ensure that they understand that this is a process. You don't want a decision from them then. You're not there to sell them the concept of this is how to license your environment, these are all your answers. You would like to set up the scene to give them the options that are available to them and then guide them to the right option based on their answers. The third thing we're going to look at is what kind of questions do we ask them? How do we guide them? That is a slide I'm going to throw up just now. We're going to take you guys through that. And then one of the final things that we look at is, how does that compare into the rest of the organization? How does one take a discussion around licensing and understand the rest of the spend or the rest of that wallet share within the IT spend? The very first thing I'd like to focus on is you now have the right role players in the room, someone from finance, someone from IT, and someone from the business, and to guide you into the right licensing discussion with that customer is to understand a bit of their background. Ask them a few questions, how they've purchased in the past, what is their replacement cycle, how long do they sweat the machines for, are they a service-driven organization. Try and get a feel for their kind of environment To give you an example, manufacturing will like to sweat things for 5 to 7 years. Financial services, probably a laptop 2-year cycle, PC 3, maybe 4-year cycle. How do they run their servers? Do they run them off-site, on-site? What kind of servers do they run? And generally, once you've had a look at those kinds of areas of their business, you get a good feel as to the culture of the organization. Manufacturing culture is quite simple. I would rather buy a Heidelberg printing press for $1 million than license and hardware. And I think that's quite understandable. What have they based that decision on? And that's where we're going with this discussion. Generally, most organizations base their decisions on a cost discussion or a cost argument. Everything that they've done in the past, financial director has to approve, and it's a cost discussion. So that is the culture of manufacturing. However, from the financial services side, there's a big focus on we want to be on the bleeding or the cutting edge. We want the greatest information. We want the greatest technology to help our users, enable them to be effective out there. Most of the guys in the financial environments focus very heavily on effectiveness, availability to the information worker, and yet they're still buying correctly. And it's purely because they haven't been necessarily shown the right route or shown all the options available to them. So the very first question I would like you to consider asking your customers or partners out there is cash flow of value to your organization? And everything that I'm going to look at over the next 5 questions is it a deemed cost issue for the organization? Is it a deemed technology issue? Or is it a deemed risk issue? And the reason why I've broken it into 3 areas is anything we do in our lives, so you're talking to another human being and they have lives just like you have lives, so try and bring something in that is familial. And something, so either from a familiar family experience or familiar purchasing experience, bring something in to bridge that gap and build some credibility. I often speak about my family and I want to keep them safe in a car. I've got 3 daughters, so we'll put them in a vehicle that is very, very cheap. So immediately the customer can understand that doesn't actually make sense. You've got 3 children, you're not going to put them in the cheapest vehicle. Why? Because the decision I'm making is not a cost decision. The decision I'm making is a what? Is a risk decision or a value decision. In IT make the same decisions, so does a financial director. It's incredible how a financial director will focus the sharpening of every single pencil when it comes around to IT, but not when it comes to ERP systems. Have you noticed that? ERP systems are a couple of $1 million, and IT will spend $3 on something or whatever it is. And I think that's the big pendulum as it swings from what is important and what isn't, and why we're making those decisions. So if I'm buying a vehicle for my family and my wife is going to be driving that car and my 3 daughters are going to be in that vehicle, I'm thinking a big 7-seater, something like a massive Volvo, the XC90 or an X5, BMW or a Mercedes-Benz, or one of those big 7-seaters out there. And at the same time, my financial director, which happens to be my wife, will turn around and say, that doesn't actually make financial sense. So I'm thinking purely risk mitigation and value, and my wife is thinking on the cost side of things. So we'll discuss the issue, and we'll end up on a vehicle, not the cheapest vehicle, not the most expensive vehicle, but something that has got an NCAP 5 rating, a safety rating, with all the airbags we need, with all the ABS, all the EDS, and all those fancy things on it. And we've come together and decided on something that fits in between all of those needs. We've mitigated our costs. We've gotten the value we need out of it as a family, and we're able to mitigate as much risk that is available to us or to our disposal. Licensing, technology, hardware, everything works the same. and that is when we ask the question, when you are buying something or when you are investing something, cash flow is critical to that investment. And cash flow is not necessarily affordability. And that is why we want the financial director in the room, as the financial director understands that cash flow revolves more around predictability. The great thing around an OVS agreement and around the rental agreement is we can predict what we're spending because we're going company-wide, we're enabling everyone to use the same technology, and as people enter the organization or their organization grows, there's no added cost. The cost stays constant across each of the users, and it is predictable. Now, anything in life, if we can have everything predictable, it would make life way easier for us. Financial directors feel the same. If they understand their costs going forward, they know that they need the technology, or they know they need that value out of it, that'll help the environment. So cost, yes. Based on cost, they're going to answer a yes. Is it a deemed value on technology? No. Cash flow does not give us a deemed technology value. And yes, based on predictability, risk is critical to a financial director. Okay? Secondly, and this is usually the answer. The answer we're looking for here is a no, because most customers, when we ask them, is it of value to be on the latest version of technology? Most customers answer what? No. And the reason why they answer no is they focus it on a cost discussion. So why would I need to be on the latest value? Think of it, once again, driving your vehicle. You've just bought a vehicle, it's maybe 2 years old, the new version comes into the marketplace, or the new series is launched. Do you really need that new vehicle? Not from a cost perspective, so no. From a value perspective, maybe it'll be good for the image, maybe you'll feel better, maybe your maintenance plan is run dry, but from a value perspective, maybe there are some extra values to add in there. And then also from a deemed risk perspective, is it of value to have a new vehicle based on the fact that it'll mitigate your risks? Yes, if the new vehicle comes with so many added extra things that it actually is a safer vehicle to drive, the same as technology. As technology progresses, it either becomes more secure, more robust, or adds more value to your organization, and that is one of the considerations. I believe most organizations are not keen to be on the latest and greatest technology based on cost. What I think might be of value to them is if they were to look at that argument from a risk perspective and a value perspective. If we have a look at our latest technologies versus, let's say, Office XP, Office 2003, and if you were to save a document, quite a sizable document in PowerPoint or Excel or Word, and take that same document on a USB stick and save it in 2010 or 2007 even, you'll see that there's quite a huge saving in terms of space. Now, in countries like South Africa, where bandwidth is at a premium, it is of great value to be able to reduce file sizes. And that's just one area of looking at things. So once again, it is of value to be on the latest version if you are comparing the areas of does it add value to your organization? Does it help you mitigate risks, which it can? And from the cost element, yes or no. I truly believe from an OVS perspective, that cost discussion isn't even a problem anymore, isn't even an argument for the customer. Based on the fact that we are giving them the predictability, they're not spending any extra, they're actually spending the same. So we're able to mitigate that, and they are able to be on the latest technology.